At one point in the recording you can see a man who looks incredibly similar to Pablo Escobar. But could it really have been him? In 1985, the largest environmental disaster in the history of Colombia occurred. The Nevado del Ruiz volcano erupted on a Wednesday night in November of that year, causing huge volcanic avalanches that practically wiped a town called Armero off the map, taking with it the lives of more than 20,000 people. A year after the tragedy, Pope Juan Pablo II visited the country and that specific area, declaring Armero as a holy field. Of course, there is a recording of that important day where the Pope is seen at the site guarded by officials and with several journalists and locals around him. At one point in the recording you can see a man who looks incredibly similar to Pablo Escobar. But could it really have been him? Although the recording has a very low quality, you can notice the similarities. The hair, his characteristic mustache, and the round shape of his face. In that year Colombia was still living a very problematic situation due to the war that Pablo had established with the state. 2 years before the Armero catastrophe, Pablo had given the order to kill the Minister of Justice Lara Bonilla. In that year, Pablo not only had the state as his enemy, but also other criminal groups. Even so, he was not yet the most wanted man in the world. So could he have been there? It is difficult to really know exactly, because at that time, Pablo was not hiding in the same way as he would years later when he began his search. It is also known that Pablo had a fixation for people who were known worldwide and who represented historical and popular figures, and as an additional fact, La Hacienda Nápoles, owned by Pablo, was only 3 hours away from where the catastrophe occurred. However, it is hard to imagine that the head of the Medellin cartel could have exposed himself to so many people just to see the Pope. As a Colombian, I know from some photos of that time that, like today, most of the men dressed alike and looked very similar in terms of their haircuts. However, when watching the recording it is inevitable to think that this man looks just like the capo. The story that the Pope was in the same place as Pablo Escobar can only be told with this recording, because no one else has spoken about it, and the people who were with him have never mentioned anything similar. And there are many legends and anecdotes that are hard to believe about his life. What do you think? Do you think Pablo could have been there? Leave me your comment and I will read it.